Hey everyone, so yesterday the LCS put out a tweet that said, who is your preseason pick for the MVP this year? They didn't specify spring or summer split, but I guess they mean like in at least one of the splits or whatever. Who do you think? It doesn't really matter. They put pictures of 4 players, okay? Obviously implying that these are going to be leading choices. Most people are going to pick, at least a couple of these for their from among these for their choices. The players they highlighted were Spica from TSM, Bjergsen from Team Liquid, Closer from 100 Thieves, and Fudge from Cloud9. So I thought this is a good chance for me to kind of put forward who I would have picked as the 4 players, and basically make a short list of who do I expect, and I'm going to focus on Spring Split, who do I expect to be kind of in the running for Spring MVP this year. While we jump into this, I want to remind everyone up front that MVP is always a regular season award, so the voting happens right after the regular season, before the playoffs. It is not based on playoff performance. And also, it's always worth keeping in mind that MVPs are usually picked from winning teams. It's pretty difficult, I think, to justify selecting an MVP from a team that performed in the bottom half or even 4th or 5th. But it can happen, of course. So let's talk about who I would pick if I was going to be picking the 4 photos to put in that tweet. And there's a little side comment that, of course, they're going to pick popular players for this, not just the players that analytically they think are going to be the best. And they also didn't overthink it as much as maybe I have. So, I'm not here to like flame the tweet or anything, but here's what I would pick if I was picking 4 players to kind of lead the conversation for potential spring MVPs. One is, I agree on Spica. I think this is kind of a bit of a no-brainer, this one. He was the MVP in summer. He led his team. Jungle is a very kind of MVP-friendly role. It's very visible when it's going well. If TSM finish in the top 3 in the spring regular season, he'll absolutely be a candidate because he's going to be probably hard carrying this team. Which is not to say that it's like unlikely they'll finish top 3. It's just that their path to top 3 involves Spica playing an MVP level. Having that previous MVP award would carry a lot of narrative power that might influence a lot of voters as well. Just have that in mind. We already know he's an MVP quality player, so yeah, of course we can give him MVP again. And I don't think he'll have any issues with like voter fatigue or anything like that, which can sometimes happen with a player like Bjergsen, who has maybe done this multiple times. They go, really, are we going to give it to him again? For what it's worth, I don't think that'll affect Bjergsen this split because he's been away for a year, and now that might actually work the other direction and give Bjergsen more momentum, but that's neither here nor there. I believe Spica is a good choice for an MVP candidate in spring. Another player I'd choose, 100 Thieves, Abadaga. Now, 100 Thieves, I think you won't find many people putting them outside the top 3 for spring, especially. I think, in my power rankings, I put them second. Obviously they're going to be a top team. There are multiple players in this team that you could look at and say they could have an MVP quality split. Closer was the one that the league chose to highlight, or at least the social media people chose to highlight. Him being a strong player, getting a lot of credit in playoffs. Again, Jungle being a very MVP-friendly role, I think I'll work for him. And I think, you could also look at FBI, but I'm looking at Abadaga for a really clear reason that I think the mid lane pool is weaker in the LCS this year. So I think he's going to relatively stand out a lot more clearly with the level of performance he's going to bring. He's not having to go up against Jizuke and Jensen and some of these other players. So I think he'll stand out very clearly. I think people will will talk him up a lot, and deservedly, and I think he will have a very good chance to be an MVP candidate. Granting that potentially Closer and FBI will draw some attention and maybe some votes away from him. Another candidate, Evil Geniuses Inspired. Again, a jungler, and I really do think that jungle is probably the easiest role to win MVP from. Just going on, don't need to get into it, but there are reasons. I think Evil Geniuses is set up really well for Inspired to thrive. I think he's going to have constant mid lane priority. He's going to know exactly, how his mid lane is going to be granting him those resources. I think he's going to be able to kind of play for himself and play for him to be the carry a lot of the time because of what he's going to get from mid, because he's got impact in the top lane, who's so versatile and knows how to give the rest of his team what they need. Because Vulcan is a really good engaging support, so Inspired doesn't have to as often draft the engage picks, and he can let in Vulcan do the engaging, and Inspired can carry. We know that he can do very flashy things in team fights and all of that. I feel like Inspired is going to be probably the most visible and a highly celebrated piece of Evil Geniuses, and I think they're going to be a decent chance to be in that top 3 of the league. And finally, who I would have picked for the 4th selection here, Hanssama from Team Liquid. And I think it's pretty clear here why as well. Although people might say, oh, look, Team Liquid have Bjergsen, they've got Core JJ, they've got these other players who can, again, like on some other teams, draw attention away from him. But I think if Team Liquid are playing really successfully and being effective as a team, it's going to be through Hanssama cleaning up all the kills. Being the one who last hits the champions and gets the kills and gets, a quadra kill here and a triple kill there and really big damage numbers off of the setups, because we know Bjergsen is really good at playing supportive enabling utility. We know Bwippo can do that as well. Both of them can carry, but I think Hanssama will consistently be carrying very hard. When you've got that, I think that positions Hanssama to just be front of mind, to get a lot of yelly kind of casting moments over his highlight plays. And to get celebrated a lot for that. And I also think that, Core JJ, as much as he's also a kind of a consistent MVP candidate, we don't know for sure how much he's going to be playing in the spring split. He's not, from the sounds of it, he's not going to be available for the lock-in tournament. He might be, but I don't know. It seems like nobody really knows for sure when he's going to be available. And so if that happens as well, I think Hanssama will get even more credit, and not have to kind of split that with Core JJ. So those would be my 4 picks, and obviously there are some notable snubs here that some of whom I've already mentioned or kind of talked about a little bit, and some who are in the tweet. I've talked about Closer, who was in the tweet, who I think Abadaga will get more credit there. I talked a little bit about Bjergsen in the tweet, and again, I think he'll have a lot of people who will want him to be an MVP candidate, and so they might give him a lot of benefit of the doubt. But I think Hanssama will end up standing out more. And I also just have my doubts about whether Bjergsen's going to be playing in kind of peak form. So I'm not so sure there. I think, I haven't talked about Fudge, but my thoughts on Fudge, obviously with the role swap and all of that, I think, again, people will want him to succeed and be really good and will give him kind of that benefit. But if Cloud9 do really well, I think Berserker and I think Summit are going to end up being more important to their team's success. So I don't think Fudge will earn the MVP kind of consideration if the team do well enough to kind of, as a team, put themselves in that position. I think there'll be too much spread out credit. I think Berserker will do the majority of the carrying, and I think Summit will get, could very well be a clear best top laner in the league, which will set him up a lot for that as well. I've talked about Closer and FBI both, and why I wouldn't put them on this. And then I think Impact is another one that people will bring up. But again, I think it's pretty clear that Inspired will probably get more credit for Evil Genius' success, assuming they find any. It's very hard in general for a top laner to get MVP, notwithstanding what I said about Summit. I just don't think Impact will be in that. I think he was in a better spot given the makeup of the team and the nature of the team he was on last year when he did get votes for MVP in a few places. He wasn't like a leading candidate, but he was in the conversation. I don't think he'll be in the conversation just because of the nature and the style of the team. And maybe it's reading too much into it, but I think the teleport changes are going to make it more difficult for top laners to kind of it doesn't seem to me like teams are going to play through the top lane as much early on. And they're not going to get those big teleports into bot lane to set themselves up and snowball, all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, I'm just not sure that top lane is going to get that kind of consideration. So, there might be some other names that I'm kind of snubbing here that I haven't thought up or included on my list. And so feel free to say who you think, who would be your top 4. If you're doing this tweet, who would be the 4 players you'd put in the picture? Or, just individual prediction. Which player do you think will get spring MVP? So, fun conversation. Always exciting to talk about kind of the start of the season when we're doing this anticipatory kind of preview type work. Everybody is expected to be the best version of themselves, and that's what makes this kind of time of year so exciting. So that's part of this conversation, part of what I'm looking forward to seeing happen. Curious to know what you guys think of making a list like this. So let me know. Thanks for watching.